Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this select board meeting to order. It is 5 o'clock, Monday, January 13th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
You do. I would move to go into executive session because I find that premature or general public knowledge of pending and probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or a party will clearly place a town at a substantial disadvantage by disclosing its negotiation strategy.
I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Be unanimous.
I would move to go into executive session to discuss the pending or probable litigation, prosecution under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes to include Town Manager Brent Raymond, Executive Assistant Judy Alberry, and Finance Director Tim Sweet.
I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It'd be unanimous. Just I guess a point of order. I did call the select board meeting to order.
Yeah.
And then we went into executive session. Do we need to adjourn that and then call the meeting to order again? Maybe at 5:30, if I'll just say that the meeting was called to order at 5 o'clock and
You can adjourn
all
it
week.
after executive session, you can adjourn it, and you can also have the select board meeting again.
Yeah.
Are we
Do you want to go upstairs? I think we should go upstairs. The hallway might be,
No, we've got somebody.
might have a lot of
else.
people in about 10, 15
Okay.
minutes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start. It is a little after 5:30. I'd like everyone on Zoom and in the audience to know that we did call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and we immediately went into executive session with no other conversation or action taken. So the select board meeting has already been called to order. Do we have any agenda changes or?
Can we go back 1 second? I need these folks to come
Oh,
out of
thank you.
executive
I need a motion to come out of executive session. Thank you,
I
Judy.
would move to come out of executive session with no action taken.
I'll second that.
A motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. So as I said, this meeting has already been called to order. So we are just going to continue with the select board meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Do we have any changes or additions?
No.
Okay. So the only warned issue we have is the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And as members of the audience know, we've had much conversation on this. There's been many items that have been discussed in the past over the course of many meetings. Some items have been discussed more than others. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through a short list of issues that have garnered a little extra discussion and give the board a chance to discuss them if they should choose to do so. And when we're done going through that list, I would then open it up to public comment. So first on my list is lots of talk about sidewalks and roads. And I know at the last, I believe it was the last meeting, we introduced, I think I did, introduce the idea of increasing the Bridge and Highway Infrastructure Fund from the initial budget of a half penny to 2 pennies. And so with the idea that, with the assumption, the idea that $172,000 worth of sidewalk work would get done and that we would get as much paving done as we can. And by the way, that includes, of course, the money coming in from FEMA, which is on the order of $610,000. So when we combine those two, we can get much of what Jordan has asked for to be done in regards to paving, and we can get all of what he is asking for in terms of sidewalks. So I guess I would start with that topic and just ask the board if there's any discussion on that, and whether or not we want to keep that in the budget.
I think that we should keep that in the budget.
I agree.
I do.
Okay. I'm going through this list mostly just so administration gets the correct interpretation from all of us, or the correct direction from all of us. At the last meeting, we also talked about the Conservation Commission and their request to have a special article for 1/4 cent. Comments on that? Should that be left in the budget?
I think it was by consensus, with, I think myself being the only opposition, that was going to be included in the budget overview and ultimately in the proposed budget. But it was a split vote.
I agree. I just, again, want to make sure that we are having this final conversation tonight.
I still support it.
Okay.
I do too.
Okay. And the chair does as well, and did so with the paving and sidewalks. Summer rec program. Once again, I'll thank administration and people working in this building that worked hard to put numbers together that brings summer rec back, brings summer rec into play for 75 of our 75 children. Maybe all Morristown children, maybe some combination of Morristown and outside Morristown. But I think there'd be some preference given to, priority given to Morristown kids. There'd be some kind of a cutoff date for that. Any further conversation? And, we've talked about location. We now have a location. We think that we can get the leadership in place to run that program. So that, of course, the summer rec program is going to depend upon whether that does happen. We do need the employees. We do need people to step up to run this program. And that is not finalized by any means. But the budget is not going to be the reason for why summer rec doesn't happen. I think that's the really important part of this. Comments on summer rec?
I support that plan.
I do as well.
Richard?
I do as well with the, based on the conversations that we had at the last meeting, just some finessing of making sure that it's clear what would prevent it from happening.
Okay.
I'm sure that's how it works.
And I do as well. Morristown Centennial Library Association appropriation. That we have the original budget, the proposed budget that Brent has given us. And at this point, the budget overview includes $206,000 for that appropriation.
So I've spent a lot of time in this meeting and outside this meeting talking about this. I wholly support what's being proposed in the budget. And I think there's every reason to.
Other comments?
I support the 206. I would like to see going forward that we include the in-kind that the town pays for the building, because I think that's significant, the $10,000, because that is a cost to the taxpayers. So it is an in-kind in theory. So we won't be giving them cash, but it's of value. So I'm not sure how we do that, but it seems that needs to be recorded so people are aware.
Other comments?
I support the proposal that Brett put forward to us. After much discussion, I believe it is still the correct number.
Great, thank you.
This is one that
I've really been stewing over this for the last month or so. And the graphs and the numbers that have been presented, I understand the way they work. My concern is the graph that we had that shows the steady increase, the $5,000 roughly per year. I just wonder if, and I don't really want to muddy the waters, but this is something I've been thinking about, is the spike in 2023, was that a correction, or that's what I don't understand. Was that a correction where we did that appropriation for $260,000? Or was it just an additional ask, something that wasn't required? So I don't know if, my concern is that $80,000 that's a large chunk of the total 260, or the 280,000. I'm sorry, the $286,000. 80,000 is a big chunk. So I'm kind of in the middle on that. I don't know if there's a better way to do it. And I know we're kind of in the 11th hour there, but.
I think there was two factors. One was is that they had asked for more money, but also, if you remember through the budget talks, 8.7% was the rate of inflation. We dealt with it with employees' salaries. We dealt with it on a whole host of things. So I think it was a twofer, really. It was a factor of a rate of inflation and an accelerated ask by the library. That would be my thought. I came into this in April of last year. The budget had already been presented, and there's numerous discussions beyond that.
That's just my question. Something that's been in my head for like the last couple of weeks, how we got that big increase.
It was certainly a request from the Morristown Centennial Library Association to increase the appropriation that year. The initial request was higher than what was eventually put into the budget. As I've said, I've given this presentation multiple times, it was a 40% increase in the appropriation. It certainly garnered a lot of discussion. And we did agree to do that. I don't remember that being a unanimous decision, but we did agree to do that. And it was largely because at that time, the endowment was not doing well. It was certainly not doing as well as it is now. It was a much, much smaller number. Yeah.
It's all that stuff together is
Yeah.
kind of, that's my concern. It's all that the endowment has done well, but
Right.
it's still all those pieces together are still in my head. That's all.
Yep. Well, I think it's in all of our heads.
Right.
As I've said, as are all these asks and wants that are out there. So, any other conversation about MCLA?
The only thing that I would say is that in the conversation, we never really drilled down into numbers last year in terms of the endowment, because if you look at the numbers that they presented to myself and now to the rest of the board, in calendar year 2023, they had an overall increase of $288,000 in fiscal, calendar year 23. We never got into those conversations about the actual endowment performance. And so I think there's lessons learned in terms of gathering information and having these kind of conversations, but I'll just leave it at that. Appreciate that.
And the last thing on my list is that we've discussed, not as much as these others, is 4th of July and, how we're going to fund 4th of July. And at this point, we have $0 in that budget right now to fund 4th of July. But the idea is that we are going to come up with some new sponsorship program that would fund 4th of July. just wondering how the board, before we adopt this budget, how we feel about that.
Yeah, as I said in previous meetings, this was common practice in Waterbury. Businesses throughout the community were solicited. By then, the 4th of July committee and sponsors the day's activities as well as the fireworks at night out of Dackrow Field and then out of the State Field. So, this was one of my ideas. It's worked well in Waterbury. There's no reason why it wouldn't work well here, sort of anecdotally, in a sort of a side conversation with the president in charge of Union Bank here in Morristown, kind of joked about the fact that he was expecting to get solicited since he read that in the minutes of the meeting. So, I mean, I think that, I think the target was around $14,000, and I think that can be raised within the community. And there's a lot of ways to promote that and also give those contributors promotional and advertising as a caveat to that. So,
Other comments?
I would say, as an event producer and having lived all over this country, industry standard is that, community comes together and throw this event. And I just spoke with 10 people down at the State House who all said that, local businesses and stuff support it. I think that's the way to go. And if a committee needs to be formed, but I think it needs to come out of our budget.
This might be the one issue that I have a few concerns about, but it's probably just because when I first got on the select board, it was drilled into my brain pretty quickly that you don't play around with 4th of July. So we had a former town administrator that didn't mind telling me that quite a bit. So I've had a hard time getting rid of that thought. As you can see, I am doing my darndest to be as transparent as I can in control of this board and getting the issues out there that have been discussed a lot. Some of them obviously more than others, but just wanted to give the board one more chance. Not trying to put people on the spot, but I just want to
comment on the fireworks.
I just want to be really clear about that. Go ahead, George.
Thank you. I'd like to have them pay for the fireworks. On the other hand, I had the privilege of sitting with Brent and many of the department heads in the first pre-budget discussions. And there's a lot more to cut that I think if we had to use $14,000, that I'd put it someplace else. It's not that fireworks are a nice thing to have, but in 45 minutes we're done. There are some things that Brent has legitimately worked hard with every department listed here to get things down. And that $14,000 in my mind could be put somewhere else. I don't want to put it somewhere else. I think we need to hold this budget down to the level it is now. If we have money, sure, but we haven't got it. If we did, we would have done a lot of other things. Brent would have recommended a lot of other things to us to consider, and he hasn't. And I personally believe he's right to not ask us to do those things. So I can't support them. I can't support the fireworks. I like the fireworks. I go to the fireworks, but we got to find a different way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, George. I just was throwing that out there for my own personal thoughts, but I do want to say to the public that I did want to come into this meeting and make sure that we all talked about these issues that are important to many people in town. There's been lots of discussion about this over the last couple of months. And we're now looking at a budget that has a 6.2% increase. That is the bottom line at this point. And I agree, George. I mean, we've had lots of conversations about the needs and the wants, and we can't get them all. Richard, did I?
I kind of echo George's sentiments. I feel like community is really important, and it's a great opportunity for people to get together during the day and during the fireworks. But I really think that we should really look at soliciting funds to get this, to still make it happen. I think there's room and a possibility to do that, but we don't get together as a community as often as we should.
Yeah.
We get together in our silos, we do things that we like, but that's one day in the year where the community comes together as a whole. Between the parade, you see people you don't see, and it's a worthwhile thing we do in our town.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing? I also think, you know, as an event producer, you've got to rethink events all the time. Events go stagnant very quickly. So I do think this is an opportunity to get the community involved, that it becomes their event, and to get somebody who's overseeing it that can rethink it and revitalize it, because I think there's a lot of potential there. So I'm actually somewhat in favor, because I think it will actually help the event by rethinking it and, you know, basically recreating it, rather than everybody shows up at 7 o'clock for, you know.
No, absolutely.
So
I
that's
agree
part of
100%.
my emphasis going forward too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So administration, Sarah Haskins, has been working on sponsorship plan for this coming fiscal year, and I've made great strides, and plan on sharing that with you in the next couple of weeks. I do have the contract for the fireworks sitting in my inbox, and plan on signing it, because although I'm tasking our administrative staff with additional responsibilities for, you know, trying to obtain funds for this event, I do believe that we can obtain funds for July 4th. As Chris mentioned, we were in a meeting with a well-established business in the community, and it sounded like the president of that business would be interested in working with other businesses in the community to ensure that move forward. There is some risk if we don't obtain those funds, but I'm willing to sign that contract with the goal of making sure that we obtain the $14,000 to have those fireworks. We're also looking at changing up the schedule for July 4th so that community members come for the parade, and then there's further activities that keeps them in the downtown and keeps them occupied, and the community can stay together for the full period leading up to the fireworks. So administration is actively working on ideas for that and reaching out to partners about their opinion, and thoughts about those ideas.
I'm assuming there's a deadline to commit for the fireworks, because they're booking them out as opposed to.
Yeah.
So that's partially what you're looking at, correct? Is that we have to,
the fireworks.
you can't order them the day before.
No,
That's basically
it's
what
been
it's-
sitting in my inbox for a while.
Okay, so yeah,
So on January 21st, we have a draft warning that we need to take action upon. And then January 27th, we need to sign the warning. Would you like us to entertain a motion to approve this budget overview tonight? Do we need a motion tonight?
It's up to you. I mean, we have another session to review the draft warning, but it's whatever the board is comfortable with to move forward. I would ask Judy if she has any input on that as well.
I would ask Tina. So I don't think I need it because we're gonna have the motion on the warning, which has the budget numbers. So just that we're going forward with what you're seeing is sufficient for me.
Yeah, you don't need a motion right now by virtue of the fact that you will sign the warning, which includes all that. It's basically your agreement to the
Okay.
terms.
Okay. Okay.
John, can I ask a question about something?
Yeah,
that's
go
on
ahead.
there? So we've not talked about appropriations at all. I'm just curious, looking on the overview, if anybody's following me, we have a basic line item for service agencies. Then there's 2 listed. Are those because they're asking for more,
No.
or?
No, those two are listed because of the fiscal year 24-25 vote. They had to be their own separate articles, that's why they're listed like that. But if you look under the proposed 25-26 column, you won't see them.
I see, okay. Okay, thank you for explaining that. It's like, I was just looking at the increase, decrease, thank you very much.
Okay, well, I guess at this point, I would open it up for public comment. I'd remind people to come up to the microphone, identify themselves, please address myself. And we'll give everyone 2 minutes to speak, and after everyone's had a chance to speak, we'll give you an additional 2 minutes to speak. So if anybody would like to start. I'll take comments from the audience first, go ahead. And then we'll go to Zoom.
Jerry Throne. I'm just wondering whether it may be not for this year, but maybe for next year to consider for fireworks, whether other towns might want to join in to make it more economical or to contribute to our fireworks.
Okay.
That was item number one. Item number two, maybe I just don't understand how this is put together, but the 1/4 cent for conservation fund does not show up under the 25-26 column. It shows as an increase, decrease. So,
Oh, yes, that's an error.
Okay.
Sorry, that's an error. Wrong column.
Tina, is it in the math?
is it, right,
It is still 6.2%.
Okay.
so it's included in this total special warning items of 461,000?
No, it will be, I can put it over there, but the 6.2% does, it takes the totals of the columns, so I think that it will be fine.
Okay,
So I think it'll work.
all right, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for noticing that.
Good catch, Jerry.
It was the right church, wrong pew.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up. Good catch, Jerry.
Cody Hill, I can't stand not talking, so just want you guys to know I'm supporting the budget. What do you say, 6.2?
Correct, yep.
However, if the roads do not get fixed by January 3rd next year, we're gonna be back in the ring,
Back in the ring.
okay?
That's just the paved roads, let's make clarifications.
We got some ditching to do too.
Yeah, the
and-
ditching, but just,
And we got some grading to do, and we know what's gotta be done.
So does Jordan.
I remember him saying he wasn't going to talk about this for a year.
I'm not talking about it, January 3rd,
Thank you, Tony.
okay?
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Go ahead.
you can bring the mic too.
Excuse myself today on my walk. Oh, new boots. Oh, jeez.
Almost 16,000 steps. So anyway, Sheila Tarbox, I'm only suggesting, as I know Waterbury did it for the 4th of July, that jars get put into everybody's place of business and have the community start putting money in to help.
Good idea. Yeah, a lot of towns
So-
do that. Good idea.
And we can always write on them, and $5 and up would be great. No, I'm kidding. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, yeah, go ahead.
Evelyn Throne, I also support the budget. I'm really hoping that, and I'm believing, I'm seeing the light here that it's going to be a little easier than it has been in other years. But also I'd like to get ahead on this library question. And I know that it came up like the base increase before was $5,000 a year, which in the scope of their budget is pretty small. I would like to have it, whatever you can do with any kind of real deep dive into it over the year or some talking with the library, see what they really need stay a little bit ahead. Not to be flush or anything, but stay a little bit ahead, because that $5,000 might have been just getting a little bit further behind each year. And if there's a number that makes more sense to at least be a baseline, if nothing else serious happens, that could be a reasonable number to keep them feeling at least a little comfortable, I think that it's a really valuable asset, and that would be worth it to do.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Hi, I'm Leah Hollenberger from Morristown, Vermont. Please excuse the mask, but I'm trying to keep everybody healthy. I echo Evelyn as well. I think the library, based on the questions of folks that I've been asking, the library trustees and community members felt that the appropriation in, I believe it was 2023, was a reset of the town's appropriation based on how similar libraries of similar sizes, similar towns had been funded. And the fact that the endowment had been, because the town support had been so low for a number of years prior, the endowment had been overspent and was in danger of, quite honestly, going away. And so that in 2023, the thought was that was a reset point for the town appropriations, giving the library time to work on making the endowment healthy again. And congratulations, that's happened. The endowment is healthier now than it has been. And they have a multi-year plan in place to continue to grow that health. And yes, they had 2 very good years, in part thanks to a rare $300,000 bequest. There's been confusion about that bequest because part of that money was held back and not invested in the endowment because of all of the budget not passing. And so they kept some of that back for the time period when the town wasn't cutting checks appropriately because the budget hadn't passed. So it was them trying to safeguard the library as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of different moving parts. An endowment fund for a nonprofit organization takes a long time. It's invested conservatively, and you take an average over 3 to 5 years versus an annual average to make your how much you can spend out of that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify some
Judy,
of
is that
that,
2 minutes? Okay.
because endowments are tricky, but I do want to thank the town for at least engaging in conversation. I hope that budget conversations with the library can be open again, more back and forth next year, and that we can look at least maintaining a common reset point for appropriations so that the library trustees can plan
Thank
for a
you.
more consistent way.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Anybody else? Dan?
Yeah, Dan McLaughlin, Morrisville. I just wanted to say thank you to the board and to the new town manager, of course. And thank you for this budget. It still takes an awful lot, and this is the first whack at it. I don't think it's gonna, just seeing the crowd tonight, I was like, oh, something must be going right. Nobody's coming to complain. And, between now and the warrant, I think you're going to be doing all right. Thank you for all the work. I know I'm looking forward, and I'm saying it's just a lot, and I appreciate all you've done.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Anybody else in the audience before I go? If there's anybody on Zoom that would like to speak, please raise your hand, and when we're done here in the room, I will recognize you.
Hi, Judy Bickford. I'm hoping that conversations in the future can happen between the library, the select board, the town manager, their financial advisor, prior to a budget being put together. Instead of surprising them with an $80,000 cut when they've already had their financial settings put to rest. They had a deadline that they were supposed to withdraw from the endowment, and that deadline passed before the cut was made. Also, it feels like the past at least 2 years that there has been an attack on the library. Instead of it being an asset to our community, it's being attacked all the time like it's an outside invader. And it feels very uncomfortable. I know when I sat in a different seat, it's fairly uncomfortable. It's still feeling very uncomfortable. It's a great asset. We should be honoring it and finding a way to keeping it so that people aren't having to fight for it every year. And also, thank you for the fireworks solution for that. And once the rec director is gone, it's gone. And we fought for over 10 years to have a recreation director. And I am sad, very sad to see that position is going to go.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Anybody else in the room? Anybody on Zoom? Judy, I'm not seeing any hands, are you?
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to say thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for the way you worded your comments. Every budget season has its issues. This one had its as well. And I guess with that, I would entertain a motion. Go. Pardon me? Oh. Yes, I was going to say that Richard and I will be running for reelection. We decided that it would be good to get the word out there so that people aren't wondering what we're thinking. So whether that's, well, I'll leave it at that. So I would entertain.
March. The position, yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
town meeting.
Yeah, their terms are expiring, so they have to.
Yep. So we will be running for reelection to the select board. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous. Thank you, everybody.